Okay. Um, I did post a link on the staff bulletin board on the website so you can download the dots and also recording of me playing it. My concept behind that is usually that you would get familiar with the tune ahead of time because it just makes it so much faster to learn if you've just listened to it a few times and or a few more than a few times. If you binge on it, then it's almost learned for you. But anyway, this being the first day, not all of you may have known that was there. So
I'm
I
just
will.
going to get it right now.
Okay, and I'll also share dots on my screen um, when we're line by lining it. I imagine we have some ear learners and some who like to also use some dots. So I'm going to try and accommodate all. But what I'm going to do first is just play it so you hear it without, and I'm not going to show you the dots when I do that, just because I don't want you distracted by reading them or by noticing that I don't play exactly like them, right? Because that's kind of how Irish music works, in that it is what's known as a heterophonic music tradition, in that we're all playing a melody, but we're all playing it a little bit different. And some of those differences are due to the different instruments we're playing, but a lot of those differences are due to interpretations of the melody, and that by any player, uh, they have certain ways they like to play things, and also adding different ornamentation, different variation as you pass through the tune multiple times. So that's all a part of the music. So I'll do my best to teach it roughly how it's written, but it won't be exact. I'll just warn you ahead of time because I actually can't. Truth be known. So position myself a little better. Hopefully everybody can see me all right. I'm going to change my view so I can see what I'm showing you. All right. I'm seeing Denise. Denise, if you mute for a second, then it should switch over so I see myself here. Let me close the chat.
I actually have been muted.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it'll switch over. Nope. All right. I'm going to go back to my speak gallery view. Okay. So, just a little context for the tune. It's a reel. So, a reel is baka duka daka dika daka dika daka daka. That's a reel. That's the meter written in 4/4. And and it's in D Mixolydian. So, what does that mean? For those of you who might not be familiar with what that means, it means it's a D scale, and it's a type of D major scale that has a flat seven or a C natural. So what that sounds like, what that looks like, is D, E, F sharp, or minor or major third, right? It's a major scale, has a major third. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and here comes the nya note, the flat seven, the C natural, and the D. Right, there's our high D. So, but being Irish music, it very often sneaks in some C sharps as well. But its main important notes are on that C natural, and it has a lot of passing notes on the C sharp. So, and that's going to be very variable, except for the ones that are kind of important, those big C naturals. So let's get it in your head. I'm just going to play it a few times. If you know it already, feel free to play along with me because you're all happily muted. So feel free to warm up and see what you can get off the bat, and then we'll line by line it and share the dots as well. So downbeat on that F sharp there. 1 and 2 and Sorry. Got distracted. All right. So, any questions about the general tune before we dig into line by lining it?
I hate to ask this, but what's the name of the tune? I just joined.
Oh, the Collier's Reel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and share the dots. Ba-doo-doo-doo. All right. Can you guys see that okay? And Denise, if you have any instruction for people whose view might be different, making it so you can see it. You're muted, hon. You are muted.
You see the little lozenge in between the image of the person speaking, who is now me, and the dots. If you click on that and slide, you can change the relative focus of the two things. So I don't usually read the dots, so I just make it as small as I can so that it is out of my way. But it's up to you. You have the control.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're an experienced reader, and you can always use the dots later once you practice learning by ear. If that's a skill you want to be developing, I'm going to be teaching it by ear as well. So, all right. So, sorry, let me just fix my A real quick.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to say to Cynthia Chambers and to everyone, I'm going to go ahead and post the folder link again. Depending on how current your version of Zoom is, you may not be able to see them, but you can always go get them for yourself. Okay?
Cool. Thanks. Okay, so our downbeat is on this F sharp, which is kind of unusual to start a tune on the third, on the big major third. It gives it a distinctive sound, right? So that first phrase, and I'm going to add to that a little bit. Let's make it this much. So that beautiful held C natural, I'm going to add a little more to that phrase. Three, four. Two, three, four. Right? Next phrase. So from the A, we have yum da dee dee dum da dee doo da doo dum. Again, from the A, 3, 4. Those of you who are reading, I'm not playing the last note of each block of two measures, because it's really, those are pickups into the next phrase, right? So once we start connecting them, they'll be there. I'm going to put those two phrases together, which make up the first 4 bars. 2, 3, 4. Right? 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Let's do that one more time. We know 3/4 of the first part because the next 2 bars are going to be just like the first 2 bars. So let's go ahead and play those two, the section we just learned, and then go back into that next 2 bars. 3, 4. Right? And now all we have left is our closing phrase. But let's do that much again. One more time. 2, 3, 4. And back into the theme. And here's our closing phrase. That much again. Let's try and put that whole A part together. 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to go over that a couple more times. I just want to say a few things real quick about that. Notice that a lot of sort of connector notes or in-between notes are sort of optional. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. So sometimes I might go. And sometimes I might go. Right? 1 da da do da dum da 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 dum. Right? Very what would be considered in Irish music a insignificant difference, with the exception of how what's referred to as how you phrase a tune. Right? So if I hold that C, if I go. That's I'm choosing to really emphasize that in my articulation or my phrasing of the tune, right? Whereas if I go the C is it's a different phrasing, right? It's more about the do da do do da. I'm emphasizing that D, right? Dum da do do dum, as opposed to da do do da 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 dum. If I can lean on the C, or I can emphasize the note that comes after it. So lots of opportunities for different phrasing and expression. So let's play this A part a couple times through, and then we'll break for some questions before we learn the B part, okay? Okay, so I'll take it a little slower. 1 and 2 and. A little slower yet, sorry. take a few questions and then we'll review it some more. What you got? Denise, do you have any questions?
Hi, here I am. I've been struggling a little bit. One of our students wasn't able to find the dots, so I took a screenshot of it, and now I've put the PDF in as
Oh,
well.
thank you. Thanks for doing that.
Um,
Do we have any questions?
I don't have any questions yet, other than the problem with the sheet music.
Oh, okay then. Alrighty then. Well, then we'll forge ahead. Um, those of you who are plectrum players might also notice that when there's a held note, like a dotted quarter, if you're a reader, right? Some quite often, I that was a word. I will, because I'm creating a rhythmic um, energy with my pick and keeping it moving the whole time. Sometimes I will express that dotted quarter as a quarter and an eighth because that next downbeat, I want to express that. So instead of da dee da da da, I might go dum da dee dee da dum, right? Because it boom cha ti da da da, because I'm keeping the rhythm going. So that's kind of a very common thing to do in terms of when you're a plectrum player. Whereas if you're playing something with a bow or that you blow into, you may or may not do that in that same way. So, okay, let's play that A part a few more times, and then we'll move on to the B part. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Sorry. That was a bad start, but we're in now. One more time. All right.
Okay, we have some questions now.
Okay then.
So somebody wants you to show the technique that gets you the sound as you're hitting the C, so the delay that you're doing there.
Ah, great, 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 great. Yeah, I think I'm mostly doing a hammer on there,
Oh,
which looks like this. So, so I'm being late with my middle finger onto the C. So when my picking goes right on the rhythm, but my finger's late, so I'm still on the B, and then I add the C. Right? That's called a hammer-on. Very common technique in plectrum instruments. And very common to want to give the C a little sculpt, to sculpt that the attack on the C. Give it a little nya sound. As in on other instruments used in the tradition, there might be some sliding into that note. There some sort of meatiness to that note. So you don't just want to go da 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 da. We're going to go nya da 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 da. We really want to create that sense there. Other questions?
yeah. So the other question had to do with whether it was what kind of tune it was, which is, it's called a reel, but somebody's hearing hornpipiness.
That's because I'm playing it slowly and deliberately. But I'll address that on sort of a larger question. There is some dottedness in reels. as well as in hornpipes. Reels are not da 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 da. They're not completely straight. I'm playing it a little more dotted right now because I'm playing it slowly. But in general, the pulse of the reel is a hoota daka juka jaka juka jaka juka jaka, which translates to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All your 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all stressed. They're all important. So it's not da 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 da. It's duka daka duka daka. Ow. Got a cramp in my hand from doing that. um, um, so yeah. But the downstrokes, the ones the numbers are a little bit longer and a little bit louder than the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. If that helps. So different pulse than a hornpipe, but I understand what you're referring to, the dottedness, I believe.
Okay, then we have somebody who wants to know about the double stops that you played when you played it.
Okay, you know what? I want to talk about those when we get through teaching the tune. I'm going to talk
Perfect.
about that and other ways of varying and ornamenting this.
Great.
So,
I agree with you. I think we should hold all other questions. Kevin, I'll get to your question, I promise.
okie dokie. All right, let's learn the B part, and then we'll address all that stuff. Speaking of double stops, so the melody note here is the high F sharp, but I do tend to want to do a nice chord on that. But let's play the melody here. 2, 3, 4. That's our first phrase. 2, 3, 4. Second phrase starts the same and then has a different resolution. Second one goes. So we come back to our beautiful C. So that phrase is, this is the second 2 bars of the part, if you will. Two, three, same again. Let's put those 2 bits together with a little, so there's a little connector note on the end of the first phrase leading back up to the F sharp, just hitting the E on that last upbeat. 2, 3, 4. That much again. 2, 3, 4. One more time on that. 2, 3, 4. And now we have the denouement, which goes. That's the first half of it. And you know the second half because it's the same ending as the first part. So that new bit is from the E up to the high A. 2, 3, 4. This time I'll put the little pickup, which is going to lead us to the ending. 2, 3, 4. And the ending we know. Same ending as the A part. So that whole second 4 bars of the part. 2, 3, 4. thing again. 2, 3, 4. Let's play the whole B part. So dum da dee da 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 dee, right? 2, 3, 4. Ending. Again. Beginning of the tune. A part, repeat. Oops. Last beat part. All right, I'm going to take the dots off the screen. If you still want them, you should have access to
Yep,
download
I've
them.
posted them twice now, but I'm happy to do it one more time if somebody still needs them. And they are in that folder that I posted the link to. Okay, so we had a few questions,
Okay.
starting from the top. Um, real Kevin is asking how a Boron would play this, and I think it's it's real time, so it's just up, down, up, down, up, down, right?
Yeah, so hookah chaka chooka. So it's down, up, down, doodle, 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 doodle.
Exactly. Okay. Now, Cynthia's interested in it being slower than you're playing, and we've explained that when you get the recording, you can slow it down. There's also a recording in that folder that you can put into a slowdowner or something like that to get it slower.
That's right.
Um, okay, let's see. There's somebody who wants to talk about double stops.
Okie
Um,
dokie.
there's a couple of people who've noticed variations from the dots, but you already
Oh.
apologized for that. So,
That was the first thing I said. It's not going to be the
and let
same.
me just also say, Irish. I mean, I live in Ireland. There is a canonical melody, but there is also a lot of room for slight variation, and then that's what you're hearing.
Yeah.
Um,
So
okay, let's see. Then
let
there
me
is.
comment on that a little bit more,
Go ahead.
actually. So if anytime you're looking at a written version of a tune, that is one player's exposition, even if it's a transcription of how somebody actually played it. That is an exposition by one player on a particular instrument that one time they played it that way, right? There is nothing holy about any transcription. So the transcription that I've provided for you is I write I try to be as basic as possible, and I don't indicate any ornaments on transcriptions. Nothing smaller than an eighth note, typically. Um, but the idea is that with a toolkit approach, with a greater understanding of the music, you can start to do some of these slight variations, which is what I want to spend the rest of the time talking about a little bit.
Yeah. So you want to talk, and the double stops will be part of that ornamentation, presumably.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
can start there.
Okay. There again, John. Hopefully, you are now happy to hear that there are going to be variations, and so don't get too attached to the dots. And there will be slight variations in the two endings, even though they're the same. When you're playing them, sometimes there's a bit of a change.
Did I actually write them different? Maybe I did. I can look.
I didn't look. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And Julie, I did post the folder for you, so you should be good. Marianne from Tennessee, she's working on having a little more elucidation about when you would use a C sharp versus a C natural.
Yeah. 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 Let's talk about that. Um, so the C naturals and C sharps are quite fluid. There's um, um, some places where it's got to be C natural, right? And those are the heart of the melody, the landscape, if you will, the most basic elements of the melody that like that would always be C natural, right? And on the B part, you know, those are the important things. All the other ones, they're kind of passing tones. And some people like to say, well, passing tones on the way up, they're sharp, and on the way down, they're natural. And there is sort of a tendency for that. But that doesn't always happen either. But if that's a helpful kind of rule of thumb, because they're often, if it's a leading tone to a D, the C sharp to the D. So like, let's see. I used a natural there. You know, they're if you think that when a reel is played at tempo, it takes about 30 seconds to go once through a regular reel, which means 16 bars takes 15 seconds, which means 8 bars takes 7.5 seconds. You're getting to, and each bar has 8 eighth notes in it. So those passing tones that only last an eighth note, they're a fraction of, they're milliseconds, right? That maybe hundreds of seconds. I don't know. You get the feeling. You get the gist. They go by so fast, and they're part of what makes it a little bit unique. So don't really worry about it. And for us on these instruments, like if you're playing and you're really sensing that you're on a C natural and everybody else is on a C sharp, it's really easy to fix. And vice versa. Some instruments, it's a little more complicated. So I don't know if that's really a good answer. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about double stops a little bit. So on these instruments, double stops are our good friend, and most most of the double stops that I use are simply open strings, right? So if you and from a technical point of view, they always happen on your downstrokes. Your downstrokes are going to it's easy on a downstroke to hit more than one string. On an upstroke, you'd sort of have to you'd have to unduly stress your upstroke. Your upstroke should be unstressed. So that's not where you're going to hit those double stops. You're not going to catch them. So they're going to be on the do-ka-da-ka-da-ka-da on your stressed 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So an easy way to find where you're going to like them is to take a section of the tune, we're in D, right? So D and A are always gonna, that's our 1 and our 5 of our root, right? So they're probably gonna sound good. So I can take this whole A part and do my downstrokes on both strings. So that's an exaggeration, right? That's probably more than you'd want to do, but it gives you a whole lot of information. You know, what of that do I want to be sure and hit? I want to hit those D drones. Those D drones are all about, Irish music's all about the D drone, right? That's what the pipes are droning on. No matter what key they're playing in, they're still droning on D. So a D drone to Irish music ear always sounds great. You can have it playing a G tune against the D drone. You play an A minor tune against the D drone. It's just, you get used to the way that sounds. But what do I really want to take away from that? When I hit that F sharp with the A, it's quite lovely, right? And when I come to the A, the D with it. Now here's a test for a Western ear. The D against the C natural. I love it. For a Western ear, we might go, that's a second. Why would I? That doesn't sound good, you know? But in Irish music, the C against the D drone is a very specific sound that's really quite characteristic of in the idiom. Now here we get, you know, when we get to the D, we've got a big octave, right? So it strengthens that note. Dumpy doodle dum. So then I sort of laid off. Got back to a double stop there. I think that sounds great, having that D in there. Right? So in playing that whole A part, I've not done any fingered, pre-planned, thought about sort of double stops, right? I'm just opening up my picking stroke to let the open strings ring through. Now, that on the B part, the high F sharp, when you have a strong note on a high F sharp, it's almost always, not always, but quite frequently, it means you're on a D chord. F sharp being the third of the D chord, and you've got your D and your A right there. So you can hit the full triad. And then that D keeps ringing through, right? Now, so here's another opportunity. On that C, when I go da-dee, da-dee, dum, I can just leave my ring finger on that G there, on the D string, 5th fret on the D string. Then I get 2 double stops out of that, if I want, right? So it gives me a C chord, or an implied. Actually, if I hit the E, I get a full C chord, but the G and the C are part of a C chord. And somehow on that, da-da-da-da, I don't want the D there. I don't know why. I just don't. I want to go. So that's a fingered double stop. A C and a G there. Whenever I hit the high A, I am almost always hitting my open A with it for strength. Right? So hopefully I've addressed the double stops question since I made you wait. Yeah. Anything else come up? Yeah.
Marianne is noticing that sometimes a second is also part of the 7th chord. So, you know, there's different things that you can do with the double stop, or with how you decide to play them together.
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely follow that. There's a double stop in the or seventh, a second in a seventh chord. Is that what you said?
Yeah, she's saying that the second note often shows up in the seventh chord.
Oh, yeah, right. Because you've got a seven and a one, right, which are a second apart. Exactly. Yeah, gotcha. Sorry, I'm a little slow. Yeah, yeah, cool.
And I think we have now addressed all the questions that were in the chat. So if other people have questions, type away.
Yeah, and then I will be talking about more ornamentation and variation in the next little bit too.
You have 15, 16 minutes left.
Yeah. 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 Time for some triplets. I see that. It's always time for some triplets. That's great. Yeah, so in reels, triplets in reels. So just on a physical and rhythmic level, I'm substituting a down up in the rhythm for a da da da, right? Down up, down up, down, 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 up, down. And when I do that, I need to be ready to resume my rhythm. So let me take it actually a little step back in that I'm creating the pulse of the reel with my downs and ups. So I am in perpetual motion on that down, up, right? So notice when I have a held note, I keep moving the same way. Whether or not I'm hitting the string, I'm still creating this continuous motion rhythm with my picking hand. And now if I change that to add a triplet, I got to get my downbeat right back into my hand. So after the down up down of the triplet, I immediately go down to get back on my. So it's one da da dee 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 da dee da dee dee down up down 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 up down down. So the triplet itself is pretty unstressed, but the downstroke right after it is stressed. So you don't want to go down up and then lose your stress pattern. So in this tune, so the most basic. Sorry, I started one sentence and then I started another. The most basic sort of triplet, it replaces 2/8 notes that are the same. That's sort of how we think of it, right? So we go, like in the B part, we have da dee 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 da dee dee dee. So we'd go da dee 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 dee. Right? That would be a very natural, common place to put your triplet there, right? But the extension of that, or the expansion of that idea, is that if a triplet can go over those 2/8 notes, it can go over any 2/8 notes, as long as you're not introducing a string cross. So as long as you're on the same string. So I could just as easily go. Let me find something. I don't like that one. There's one. Da dee da da. If I put a triplet on top of da da, I get. Right? Da dee dee da la dee doo dee doo doo. Here's another one. Sorry. Right, so these are sort of different different applications of the triplet. A picked triplet is purely a rhythmic event, so you can place it over the melody in a different way. So in a way that your melody hand, your fingering hand, is kind of singing the melody, la 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 la, and your picking hand is breaking that into rhythmic subdivisions. So it might be going, instead of la, it could be going ta 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 tickety ta 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 ta. So la ta 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 doo la ta 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 tickety ta, right? So I'm just overlaying the rhythmic bit on top of the melody bit, which is just going the whole time. So hopefully that's a useful concept for you. It opens up a lot of possibilities, right? Were there other questions about triplets?
Not that anybody has articulated yet.
All right.
But maybe we can say something about, because we're talking, of course, about mandolins. Maybe we can talk about what some of the other instruments do in this case.
Yeah, right. So the roll is the most common, if you will, ornament on fiddles and flutes and pipes and pretty much everything else. We don't really do rolls, but we try to make our triplets fall in with the rolls. So they might be going doodle-la, dee-doo-la, doo-doo-la, wah-wah-wah, doodle-la, doo-doo. And we're trying to create that sense. So in order to do that, it's nice to mute the triplet a little bit, to do some sort of little string touch so it doesn't go da-da-da, da-da-da-da, right? So it's a little subtle, and also it's unstressed, right? So we're not going ba-da-da-da. Like if you put in reels, you've got your front beats and your back beats, one and two and three and four and do and do and do and da. So if you put triplets on the front beats, they're a little more aggressive. You get this da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da and da, as opposed to da and diddly da and doodle da and diddly da. That's the backbeats. The backbeat triplets sort of fall in more with the rolls, and the frontbeat triplets is more like a short roll or a bowed triplet. It's like a different ornament, even though physically for us it's the same thing. So we're trying to fall in.
So there's a
We do
question finally. So triplet would always go on a strong beat or a downstroke?
in reels, yes, yes, yeah. If you put them on the ups, it starts to sound more polka-like. Do da do 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 would be a triplet on an upstroke, and that happens in polkas. But in reels, it's do ga dicka dicka dum do 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 diddle dum. If that's a useful description. So yeah, it's a good
Okay, so
question.
I'm gonna take this opportunity to point out that you are lilting now. Maybe you want to talk about that a minute.
Yeah, so lilting is a great way to figure out, well, how do I want to phrase this tune, or how might I want to vary it? How do I just want it to sound, right? So if I go dee doo dee da dee dum day dum, as opposed to diddly diddle dum ba dum da dee dee dum, dia dee dum dia doo 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 diddly da dee dee, right? So those were three different ways of just that first little bit, which I can do with my voice quite easily, right? So how do those then map on the instrument? And you're going to find sometimes they map really cool and sometimes they don't, because we don't have the same limitations on our voice. Oh, Brady. So like those three things we did is like da dee da da dee da dee dee, as opposed to ya da dee, sorry, ya da 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 dee da, or ya da dee da dee da da, right? So you can try out these different things, and then see how you might do them on your instrument. Sometimes they might not work because of string crosses and other little technical things, but they might work great on, like, oh, I also play concertina. That would work beautifully on the concertina, or dot dot dot, whatever's going to work for you, because it's a instrument neutral vehicle for expressing this music, right? So anything that comes in your head, you can try. The other thing it gives you is um, be, because it separates you from a fingering pattern for the tune. It embeds the tune in your consciousness, if you will, so that somebody could say, okay, now play it in G. Here's a G. And with just a few little misfires, you're probably going to play it in G pretty easily if you've been able to lilt it. Because if you've been able to lilt that tune, you have that melody, and that melody exists in you separate from the mechanics or the sequential notes on your instrument, right? So it's a really important and wonderful practice. And you can do it while you're driving.
Yeah, Martin Hayes, who's a pretty famous fiddle player, told us that when he was a kid working on the farm with the cows with his dad, who was a very good fiddle player, his dad would never let him pick up an instrument until he could lilt it properly. So that's kind of the way that people learned before note reading was really much of a thing in Ireland, at least not widely in the West. So somebody's asking if you ever mentally drift from a tune into another one. Like this person is hearing "My Love Is in America" coming out of this.
Yeah. So these two tunes, I think, are a dangerous combination. They're kind of close. Yeah. I had them forever, not forever because I've finally separated them, but for a long time I couldn't get from the A part of one into its B part without hitting the other one. So yeah.
That's
That's
great. And Anna wants to know one more time, in reels, the you want to place the triplet on a downstroke, correct?
that's right. Yeah. So you replace a down up with a down up down.
So
Duck,
that
duck,
it
duck.
doesn't sound like a polka.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody likes your fabric collection. You got 5 minutes to close
Yeah.
things out here. I want to
Yeah.
say before we go, I will post the folder one more time. There are recordings of all these tunes in that folder, so you could learn tomorrow's tune, which is going to be Marla.
I have to look. I can't
I'm
remember.
sorry, it's only 3 tunes. I thought you would just know.
Oh, it's a jig. It's a jig called Patsy Geary's. It's a really nice tune.
There you go. So you could go download Patsy Gary's or look at the dots for it and learn it a little bit before the class. And
And then you'll
and
get more from the variation discussion.
yeah. And then let's see, is there anything else? Oh, I'm supposed to do the donation thing. We Lark Traditional Arts do these events for free. But we are a nonprofit, and we could certainly use your donation money if you have any. And we put it to good use, I promise.
They do.
So I'm just going to put that link in first, and then I'll put in the link for the folder one more time. So there's the donation one. I'll go look at the folder one. Maybe you want to play the tune one more time? What do you think?
Yeah, and I just want to talk a little bit more about variation in our 4 minutes. So variation, people talk about how do I get from here's this string of notes to being able to change that string of notes without losing the tune, right? So this is something I hear all the time. So I can't cover that in the remaining 3 minutes, but there's sort of lots of little openings to do that. So we're gonna start to talk about that more tomorrow and the next day. But like you can just take a phrase like there's one. So it starts there and it winds up there, right? Uh, sorry. Right? So I'm just like looking around for sort of slightly different ways to get from A to B. Um, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. The variation can be as small as I'm playing 2/8 notes here instead of that half note, or I'm playing, da dee dum instead of da dee dum, right? And in jigs tomorrow, jigs provide a really handy framework for talking about variation inside the little 3 note unit that I call the jiglet. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow and Sunday because we have a slip jig on Sunday. So we'll be exploring that. There.
Whoa, you made it.
Woof. Yeah.
I'm going to turn off the recording so that the next people can start their own.
Great. And I'm going to
So-
look through the questions and comments to see if I missed anything or.
Yeah, I think I got them all, but maybe not.
Okay. Great.
I'm
Yeah,
just-
Someone's asking about your quilts.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole conversation about your fabric.
So I do this kind of crazy stuff. Like kind of abstract piecework.
But you don't really quilt them.
I used to. I ran out of time. I don't have time anymore. I know. Somebody want to quilt that project for me? It was a commission for 60th birthday, and he just turned 65. So that's where I am in that process.
I am looking for the turn off the video and I'm not finding it. Oh, here it is.